Merlin's a treasure.
Yeah.
You're gonna join the review of The Evil Within?
Yeah.
That's too bad because he murders a kitty cat.
Several.
Several, yeah. We only know of one for certain though, and a dog.
Yes.
This movie's not gonna be for everyone.
Nope.
Hello everyone and welcome to Discrot. Today we are going to do another Sidereel and talk about a movie that not a lot of people have heard about, namely The Evil Within. Yeah, cuddly notes, huh? The Evil Within is about Dennis, a man with a mental disability being taken care of by his brother John. And one day a mirror appears in his room that his brother put there, but then the mirror starts talking back to him and makes him do things he would not otherwise do. I know there are some people that have a specific phobia of your mirror not doing what you're doing. So I'm just gonna go on a limb here and say that that movie is not for you if you have that, and we will include some imagery of that, so that is to say, some more imagery of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe...
Beware.
This movie is a strange one. You have a lot of horrific imagery, not only in body horror, like with a skin suit near the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Or when that woman that dies fairly early on crawls towards them. Of course, there's also the mirrors, which can, again, affect someone who is specifically afraid of that. But even I, who aren't that scared of that, find it kind of freaky at times.
Yeah, there's some really disturbing imagery in those mirrors.
And you also have the fact that the corpse, as he is credited, literally eats his own fingers.
Yep. Eats them like chicken nuggies.
With blood splattering out. And you might think that this is a very violent movie, but it's not. There's like one exception that is specifically extremely violent, but that comes towards the end of the movie.
Well, the bathroom scene is sort of violent.
Yeah, sort of. But I wouldn't classify that as violent as the mind-blowing one.
You stole my joke.
But even though it isn't directly violent all the time, you know, there are some extremely violent things that happen in it. It includes child murder.
Yeah, there's some really horrific implied violence.
Yeah, especially when you see like the freezer full of
Yeah.
children. Or dead animals. Or dead adults. Are you fine?
Yes, it's just... He was going to fall.
Oh. Does he want to go out?
It seems so. One moment, guys.
But yeah, back to the child murder.
Yes, back to it.
In media, it's very rare to see someone actually dare to kill children in their stories, and I appreciate when they actually have the guts to do that.
Yes.
It's just something you don't see all that often.
Yeah, and it's confirmed, I think, 2 child killings
Yeah.
because of the ending.
That we will not spoil because...
It's a pretty great ending.
I will say that the show at the ending is some of the best body horror that I've seen in cinema, even though the glue is kinda silly. And we talk about body horror a lot when it comes to this movie, but I feel it's mostly psychological horror.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of points in the movie where you're not sure if Dennis is dreaming or not. because we're seeing. I'm guessing we're seeing a lot of this movie from his perspective.
Yeah, I mean, he does narrate the beginning and the ending.
Yeah, and there's points in the movies where it's really disturbing what he sees around him. For instance, the spider scene, the scene that stuck with me the most, is when he's trying not to go to sleep, and then he looks at the TV and like,
Sleep. Let yourself sleep.
Really? I found that kind of silly. I mean, he's there with a tie, and he says go to sleep. And all I can think is like, I want this guy as a news anchor. He is slightly less toxic than Tucker Carlson.
the movie has very good editing and camera work.
Occasionally. I mean, sometimes it gets weird, but then you have scenes like the part where he's interviewed by the child services that kind of look over Dennis as well, which is amazingly well cut with all of these details being used
Yeah.
to kind of cut between the two characters, even though it kind of ends on a weird fade. It is very good, but on the other hand, sometimes it's a little bit weird and feels like someone wanted to edit this to be a little bit more engaging, but didn't quite know what they were doing, unlike in that scene. Kids, sometimes your cool editing tricks aren't as cool.
Yeah, you don't always want to bring that to your actual movie.
And yeah, speaking of weird things like that, there are also some sound effects that feel out of place, specifically because they've been used so often.
Yeah, they're like stock.
Ooh, knife number 3. I mean, this movie has so much going for it visually, so to hear the sound effects being a little bit,
Lackluster.
to put it like that, is dragging me out of the movie a little bit. And the fact that most of the soundtrack is a little bit dull, a little bit standard, although the ending song fucking slaps.
It's really good if you have a headset on.
Yeah. Like, we watched this on DVD, and the DVD menu just plays that over and over again, and that was fantastic.
Yes.
Like, hugely enjoyable.
So the movie had a bunch of budget problems. Like, they had a very few filming locations.
Yeah, you can see that.
Like, they used the restaurant, I think it's called the Monsoon, a lot. Like, that's the seemingly only restaurant in town.
Which they go to all the time.
Yeah.
What the fuck does John work with?
And what the fuck do they even serve there?
Alcohol?
Drinks? And waterfall TV?
Yeah, that does catch me off guard when it's just like a TV playing a waterfall over and over and over again. Although there is a cool transition cut where it goes into
The
what
spider scene.
Dennis is seeing.
Yes. Also, there's seemingly only one ice cream shop, because they call it the ice cream shop.
Let's get some coffee at the ice cream place.
I think it's called the Oasis. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of water-themed locations, apparently.
I mean, it's a summer city,
Yeah.
so it's probably by the ocean. Well,
Yeah, but it's Comic Sans.
I can see there are a bunch of limitations to their locations, but I feel like the movie kind of gets away with it because of how it is told.
I also want to touch on Freddie Kohler, the main character who plays Dennis. His acting, it's fucking immaculate. Like,
Superb. I like all of them. I kind of feel like John and his girlfriend, sometimes it doesn't feel as real as Dennis.
yeah, because he has to switch between he's talking into a mirror and talking to himself, being two different people.
Yeah, one being mentally disabled and one being less so, which is very cleverly hinted at, because he always goes on about John using these 50-cent words, as he calls them,
Big
to
words.
sound smart. But before you even know that the mirror is like another character, he uses a 50-cent word in order to get Dennis to do the horrible things.
Yes.
And I love how manipulative the mirror is.
Yeah.
It starts with him complimenting him and saying he's really good, but then it plays on his insecurities, saying, oh, they are laughing at you behind your back because you're mentally disabled. Then later comes in and says like, oh, I can make you smarter so they'll stop laughing at you. Which brings me into like a little bit of a discussion. Is this movie ableist? And keep in mind that we are not disabled, at least as far as we know. So this is going to be a very open conversation about two people who don't really know enough to have a 100% solid take.
Yeah.
And maybe someone in the comments will know more about this, either from seeing the movie or from how we describe it. Because on the one hand, it is about someone with a mental disability who starts killing people. On the other hand, it's about someone else manipulating that person into killing someone. On the other hand, it is himself. I think I land on it is kinda ableist in that it takes people with multiple personality disorder and uses them as a linchpin of like, that's the negative aspect.
Yes, but there is also the factor of the paranormal, which could outplay everything you just said. But then again, we don't really know.
If it is, it's hard to put this movie either in like reality or just in the mind of Dennis. It could be that like another part of his personality and mind was locked away and it wants revenge, and that's why it becomes to teach John a lesson to again be as vague as possible to make people kind of want to check the movie out. But is that multiple personality disorder ableism? I kind of feel like it is.
Yeah, and it's very minor spoiler ahead, but the very ending of the movie, there's a scene which implies that all this was real.
I don't read it. I don't read that scene all that much like that.
Yeah.
I read it a little bit more like he may have done some real things, but what is real and what isn't real, we don't see the end scene, to put it like that.
Yeah.
In the immaculate detail, we see other things.
Yeah, and another thing I want to point out is it seems sometimes like we're seeing John's perspective from Dennis' perspective, because the restaurant with the giant man who he thinks is his psychologist and everyone they know disappearing.
I read that more as Dennis has just gone around and killed everyone.
Yeah, that too. And fucking Pete.
There's Pete. Pete from the bookstore.
On the one hand, weird fucking way to introduce a character.
Oh hey, it's Pete from the bookstore. What?
But I love Pete.
Pete, you gotta call the cops.
I don't want to.
Pete said all cops are bastards.
Yeah, those movies said all cops are bastards.
Especially in the fact that some of the cops do say ableist things. So it definitely points towards the police mistreating people with mental disabilities. Although I feel it's very vague in the way that it does it. But it can be read into the movie, and I'm nothing if not optimistic about anyone saying all cops are bastards.
And also one of the cops goes into the kitchen and just starts eating their food.
Save me a piece, all right, Don?
I'm for no reason.
There is a reason they're cops.
Hey, it's a pig.
Now, I don't want you to besmirch the good name of pigs by comparing them to police.
I'm sorry, pigs.
Another thing you can say about this movie is that it kind of interrogates ableism and just how hard it can be for someone to take care of someone with a mental disability, but it's also kind of a criticism of the American health system, what John wants to do is to sell the house so he can afford to put Dennis away in a private hospital where he will get better help instead of going to a public place where...
Yeah, the state home.
I also love how the beginning comes back at the end, but that is not going into spoilers. I will just say that it begins with him going into the world's scariest haunted house in his dream, and it just goes through. Nothing happens. He goes out and says, "That wasn't scary, we were ripped off, we should get our money back." Then the mother says,
What makes you think the ride's over? What makes you think it's ever gonna end?
and it is very interesting that ever since then he has nightmares.
I do suggest that you watch this movie twice. We watched it twice, and for me, it's fun to watch the movie again knowing the things that we know. Some of the things. The second act is trash.
Yeah, the second act on reflection is like the worst part of this movie because the other parts have some majorly inventive stuff happening. But right in the middle, there's so much normalcy trying to tell the story, and that sucks the energy out of me. I mean, I almost fell asleep watching this for the second time. There are some other details I don't quite like when you find out what happened to Dennis. I don't think that should have been revealed before the end. I think having a scene where John explains what happens...
Early.
Yeah, earlier, because it is towards the end, but it's not the end. I feel it would have been more impactful if it was at the very end. And also the book thing doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
he gets a lot of audiobooks because he can't read, so he buys some in the bookstore that is run by Pete. Or he is in the bookstore a lot.
Works there, or...
Listen, it's Pete from the bookstore.
Pete from the bookstore.
Pete from the bookstore.
I do also love that Pete has a shirt that just says "fuck you." I hope that that's just the company uniform. But yeah, there is a part about him saying that, oh no, he took someone else's bag and took the books, but it was his books, and then it's revealed that he might have taken someone else's books, but it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of subplot.
Yeah, one that I would recommend not looking too deeply into, even though we are currently doing that. So, Martin.
Yes.
After having seen this movie twice,
Oof.
would you recommend it?
Yeah. Ish. It's inherently not a good movie, I think, but you guys have your own opinions, so it's a weird enough movie that I can see why people would like it. So go watch it. If you like it, cool. If you don't, traumatize your friends with it. Maybe they like it, so you can spread it, because it deserves more credit than it has gotten, I think. Even though I don't think it's a great movie.
Yeah, because I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't...
Hey bro, fuck you.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it is a great movie, not one of the great ones. It's better than a lot of horror movies I've seen that have turned into franchises, aka Hellraiser. I find it to be so interesting and unique in what it tries to say and what it succeeds in saying, and its visuals. I think that it's kind of an important movie even though it has some missteps. And yes, the second act is boring, but for me the journey to get to the ending from the beginning is incredibly engaging.
Yeah.
And I feel like it should be more iconic, if not better liked.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons I don't really like it that much is because it deals a whole lot with mental disability, which I don't have a whole lot of experience with. So it kind of makes me uncomfortable.
It's a horror movie.
Still.
I think the point is making you uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's uncomfortable at the wrong times.
Like when he tries to pick up the ice cream lady.
Yes.
I feel that's kind of a great scene, actually, just because it is so incredibly, I will say cringeworthy, but like in the completely wrong way where you can literally distill no like positive, ooh, that's cringy. It's just awful. It's
Yeah.
just terrible to sit there and watch.
Full tilt cringe.
And you can't get away from it, and you're trapped in this situation, and you get where he's coming from, but also you recognize it as just toxic masculinity of thinking you deserve to be with someone, but at the same time you feel bad for him. It's like a conflicting scene where everything is just so incredibly uncomfortable. And I like that, because I hate myself.
Yeah, I think you should go watch the movie. See if you like it or not.
It's worth picking up, but if you will like it, that is more of the question. Like, if you don't like it, you can give it to one of your friends and just curse them with the knowledge of the movie. Or you can give it to your local library. Both of which are equally good options, because if it's in the library, someone may watch it one day and be equally fucked up by it as you was, or less, who knows.
There's Pete. Pete from the footstool.